So we were going to talk about the tiara.
Were we?
Yeah.
I thought it said no.
I know, but I just think it would look so fabulous if you
Yeah, but
did.
I've only got little tiny tiaras. They're not really worth it.
The jeweler had been invited to discuss a forgotten collection of royal pieces. Instead, he placed a sealed cream envelope beside the velvet case and spoke the name no one in the room was prepared to hear: Diana. Within moments, William was staring at letters written by his mother. Charles had stopped speaking, and Camilla was walking toward the door with tears in her eyes. What began as a routine meeting had become a royal reckoning. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William did not reach for the envelope. He watched Adrian Mercer, Gerard's master jeweler, place his hands beside the case. A master jeweler is the senior expert trusted to examine and authenticate important pieces. Mercer had been summoned to verify objects from Diana's private collection, but the packet beneath the velvet lining had changed everything. Charles leaned forward, then stopped. The king had expected questions about provenance, the documented history proving where an object came from and who owned it. He had not expected his former wife's handwriting to return from silence. Camilla saw his face tighten, and that reaction frightened her more than the envelope. Mercer spoke carefully. Diana had ordered the letters concealed inside a false base and delivered only to William. No palace office held copies. No courtier had permission to open them. The jeweler supported his account with a signed custody record and an instruction witnessed during the final year of her life. William lifted his hand, but his fingers stopped above the faded blue ribbon. "Has anyone read them?" he asked. Mercer answered no. The prince stared at the packet. These were not ordinary pages. They were the last unfiltered words of a mother whose public pain had been examined while her private fears remained unfinished. Camilla pushed her chair back. She heard Mercer explain that Diana had named her eldest son alone, and the queen consort's control collapsed. "I cannot stay for this," she whispered. Charles said her name, but she turned away in tears and walked toward the door without waiting for comfort. William finally touched the outer page. One sentence crossed it. He must read the contents only when strong enough to protect his family and the crown, the institution represented by the sovereign and royal household. The warning slowed his breathing. Charles stared at the date beneath Diana's signature. Then the monarch admitted quietly that he remembered the night those letters were written. As Camilla disappeared beyond the closing door, William turned toward his father, not yet asking what Diana wrote, but why Charles already seemed to know. The letters did not merely belong to the past. They reached into 3 lives still shaped by Diana's absence. For William, they carried the voice of a mother he had lost too soon. For Charles, they threatened to revive choices he had spent decades learning to live with. And for Camilla, they represented something even more painful, the possibility that Diana had anticipated the future and left her son a warning about it. William remained at the table after the door closed. He had spent years protecting his mother's memory from noise, speculation, and palace argument, but the sealed packet threatened to destroy that careful distance. The future king, the man expected one day to inherit the throne, now faced something far more personal than duty. These pages belonged to the boy Diana had once tried to protect. Charles watched his son touch the faded ribbon. The king understood that the letters had no legal force, meaning they could not formally command the monarchy or change royal rules, yet their emotional power could be greater than any official decree. Diana's words could reopen questions about her sons, her marriage, and Camilla that he had spent decades trying to contain. William ran his thumb slowly across the knot but did not untie it. "Why did you recognize the date?" he asked. Charles did not answer at once. The prince raised his eyes and repeated the question, quieter this time, making it clear that he would not read a single line until his father explained what he knew. Camilla stood beyond the partly closed door, one hand pressed against the cold stone beside her. Her breathing had become uneven. An aide approached and softly asked whether she needed assistance, but the queen consort raised her palm and told the courtier to leave. She wanted no witness to the fear now rising inside her. Adrian Mercer broke the silence with a detail recorded in Diana's signed custody instructions. The packet had not been meant for William's 18th birthday, his wedding, or his accession, the formal moment when a new monarch takes the throne. Diana had chosen a different condition. She wanted the letters released only when a disputed sapphire brooch returned permanently to her eldest son. William looked down at the velvet case. The brooch had been transferred into his private control that very morning, after years of confusion over its ownership. That was why the hidden compartment had finally been opened. That was why Diana's voice had returned now. Camilla heard the word sapphire and turned sharply toward the room. Charles noticed her reaction. So did Mercer. The queen consort knew the piece, and her expression made one truth impossible to hide. The jewel had once stood at the center of a conflict none of them had ever fully resolved. The brooch was not simply an heirloom, and Camilla's recognition of it led directly to the night Diana decided her son would one day need the truth. Years before the sealed envelope appeared, one confrontation convinced Diana that silence could no longer protect her sons. It happened after a formal palace dinner, when a piece of jewelry vanished from her private rooms and reappeared in a discussion about the monarchy's future. That night, she did not shout. She did something far more dangerous. She returned to Kensington Palace, dismissed her staff, sat alone at her desk, and began writing to William. Diana had always regarded the sapphire brooch as personal, not institutional. It had been given to her privately and was never meant to enter the general royal collection, the group of jewels controlled for official family use, rather than by one individual. She saw it as part of the inheritance she would one day leave her sons, especially William, who already carried the burden of becoming king. Charles knew the dispute was larger than one jewel. By 1996, the princess feared that her letters, possessions, and private wishes could disappear into palace control if she no longer had the power to defend them. The king understood that fear, yet he still believed every argument could be contained through silence, patience, and careful negotiation. Diana confronted him after a formal dinner at Windsor. She had learned that the brooch had appeared on a future use list beside Camilla's name, even though no one had asked for her consent. Charles told her the list was only provisional, meaning it was a temporary plan rather than a final decision. She heard something else entirely. She heard that her private legacy was already being divided while she was still alive. Diana opened the case and placed the sapphire between them. Her voice remained controlled. That made the moment more painful. She told Charles that William would one day learn who had protected his inheritance and who had allowed it to be treated as palace property. The monarch tried to calm her, but she closed the case before he could finish. Night deepened over Kensington Palace, but Diana refused to sleep. She dismissed her staff, called Adrian Mercer through a private number, and asked him to come without assistance. The jeweler arrived after midnight and listened as she described a hidden compartment beneath the velvet base. Mercer later preserved the moment in a documented custody account. Diana placed several handwritten letters inside the case and instructed him to release them only when the brooch returned permanently to William. That condition mattered, because it would prove her son finally possessed enough authority to defend what she had left behind. Diana added one separate page at the bottom. She told Mercer that it concerned Camilla and contained the truth William would find hardest to accept. Now, decades later, William sits across from his father with that page within reach, and Camilla returns to the doorway, just as the ribbon is untied. Camilla had already walked away once, but before William could unfold the first letter, she returned. Her eyes were wet, her posture rigid, and her voice barely above a whisper. She did not ask the prince to destroy the pages. She looked directly at Charles and demanded that he speak first. In that instant, the room stopped being a jeweler's salon. It became the site of a reckoning postponed for nearly 30 years. Camilla remained in the doorway and told the king that William deserved the truth, before Diana's words became the only account he trusted. The royal household, meaning the people and offices that support the monarch, had protected too many painful decisions through silence. She would not let that silence speak for her again. William placed the unopened letter flat on the table. He asked why his mother had believed her private possessions required protection from the same institution that claimed to defend her sons. The prince looked first at Charles, then at Camilla. Neither could hide behind ceremony now. Camilla moved closer and faced him directly. She admitted that she had known the sapphire brooch was once discussed as something she might wear in the future. The queen consort insisted she had never requested it, never approved the list, and never wanted Diana to believe she was reaching into another woman's private inheritance. William turned toward his father. "Did you let her believe that?" he asked. Charles lowered his eyes and set down his signet pen, a personal pen marked with the sovereign's identifying emblem. The small sound carried more weight than an argument. The king knew his silence had become an answer. Charles finally spoke. Palace advisors had proposed moving several of Diana's possessions into the central collection, where royal items could be managed for official use. He had considered the plan temporary. He had expected time to calm the dispute. But the monarch admitted he had not stopped the discussion quickly enough, and Diana had seen hesitation where she needed protection. Adrian Mercer broke the silence before William could respond. The jeweler referred to the documented custody account he had signed years earlier, and warned that the letters reached beyond the brooch. They concerned the prince's future authority, the treatment of Catherine, and the danger of allowing private loyalties to override the crown's duty. Camilla stared at the packet. Charles did not move. William untied the faded ribbon and unfolded the first page with hands that remained steady only through force. Then the future king read the opening sentence aloud. Diana had written that the day might come when her son would have to choose between peace and protection. The first letter did not accuse William's father of hatred. It accused him of hesitation, and that distinction placed the crown's power under an unforgiving light. The palace had rules for state papers, inheritance, royal jewels, and official correspondence. Diana's letters belonged to none of those systems. They were private words concealed inside private property and released under instructions the monarchy had never approved. That made them emotionally explosive, but it also made them almost impossible to suppress. For the first time that afternoon, Charles understood the full danger. The crown could request silence. It could not command it. Adrian Mercer opened a leather folder and produced the original custody document. A custody document is a signed record showing who legally controls an object and under what conditions. The jeweler pointed to the final clause, proving that the velvet case and everything hidden inside it had been held in trust for William, not placed within the sovereign collection controlled for official royal use. William read the clause twice. The prince understood what it meant immediately. Because the letters were addressed personally to him, Charles could not seize them, palace officials could not archive them, and no private secretary could release even a single page without his approval. For once, the institution had no power to move ahead of him. Charles felt that loss of control. The king asked his son to read every letter before deciding whether Catherine, Harry, or anyone else should learn what Diana had written. He did not order him. He appealed to him as a father who knew one sentence could reopen wounds across the entire family. William placed one hand firmly over the packet. He told the monarch that he would not promise silence before understanding what his mother had feared. The future king had spent years protecting peace, but Diana's opening words had already forced a harder question. What if peace had always depended on someone else remaining unprotected? Camilla watched as Mercer lifted the final pages. Beneath William's letters lay a smaller sealed envelope carrying Catherine's married title. The queen consort stared at the name, because Diana could not have known who her son would marry when she prepared the case. Mercer explained the mystery through his documented account. Diana had left one envelope blank and instructed him to address it to the woman William eventually married. After the royal wedding, the jeweler added Catherine's title exactly as requested and resealed the packet without reading what lay inside. Camilla's voice weakened. She asked whether Diana had expected William's wife to become a target within the institution. The prince did not answer. He simply gathered both envelopes and held them against his chest. That silence frightened her more than any accusation. William left the showroom carrying his mother's words, but before he could reach Catherine, the first consequences began tearing through the palace. Camilla's departure lasted less than 10 minutes, yet it became the image everyone inside the palace remembered. She crossed the corridor alone, refused her waiting car, and disappeared into a private sitting room. By the time Charles joined her, staff members were already whispering about Diana's letters. No announcement had been made, no document had been released. But the queen consort's tears had revealed what official silence could not. The discovery had struck somewhere painfully deep. Two aides watched Camilla pass without speaking. One saw her wipe her cheek before entering the sitting room, while another noticed William leaving through a separate entrance with the cream envelope pressed against his chest. A security officer recorded the departures in the routine movement log, the official record used to track who enters or leaves a protected royal building. Charles's private secretary reacted immediately. He ordered everyone connected to the meeting to treat it as confidential and began preparing possible answers for the press. The instruction mattered because even a partial leak could turn a private family discovery into a public struggle over Diana's memory. Yet the king's staff faced a problem. Too many people had already witnessed the emotion. Camilla removed her gloves and placed them carefully on a table. The controlled gesture could not hide her anger. When Charles entered, she told him Diana had returned to their marriage without speaking a single word. The queen consort had spent years believing the past had finally lost its power. Now one hidden packet had proved otherwise. Charles stepped toward her, but she moved back. The king tried to explain that he had not known the letters existed. Camilla interrupted him and asked a harder question. Had he ever intended to tell William about the dispute over the sapphire brooch, or had he planned to let silence bury that truth forever? Adrian Mercer discovered another danger inside the showroom. The jeweler checked the authentication system and found that one image had automatically uploaded to the secure archive. An authentication image is a formal photograph created to prove an object's identity and condition. This one showed the blue ribbon, Diana's signature, and William's name. Mercer immediately informed the private secretary through a recorded telephone call. The image carried a timestamp, and 2 employees had witnessed its creation. Any palace attempt to deny the letters now could be challenged by a clear digital trail. Silence was no longer protection. It was a risk. William called Catherine before leaving. At Adelaide Cottage, the Princess of Wales heard the strain in his voice as he told her he was bringing home something written for both of them by his mother. She asked no questions. She simply said she would be waiting. The palace reacted with fear, but the true turning point occurred far from its offices, when William placed Diana's words in Catherine's hands. There were no courtiers in the room, no lawyers, no advisors measuring the danger of each sentence. William and Catherine sat opposite each other at a small table, while Diana's letters rested between them. For several minutes, neither spoke. Then the prince opened the envelope addressed to his wife and passed it across. Catherine read the first line slowly. Before she reached the bottom of the page, her eyes filled with tears, and William finally understood what his mother had truly been protecting. William had dismissed the household staff before opening the packet. He silenced both phones and asked Catherine to do the same. The household staff were the employees responsible for supporting the family's private residence and daily duties. But tonight, even trusted service felt like an intrusion. The prince wanted no advisor shaping his reaction, and no palace official deciding what Diana's words should mean. Catherine held the page with both hands. Diana had written that royal life could push a future monarch toward protecting institutional calm, while the people closest to him quietly carried the cost. The warning mattered because William had been trained to prevent scandal, preserve stability, and place duty above emotion. His mother feared that those lessons could become an excuse for silence. Catherine continued reading. The letter asked William's future wife never to surrender her identity, merely to make palace life easier for others. The Princess of Wales lowered the page and admitted that the words felt painfully direct. She had entered the monarchy prepared to serve, yet Diana seemed to understand how service could slowly become self-erasure when every conflict demanded another sacrifice. William looked away. He confessed that he had sometimes remained silent to avoid family confrontation, believing patience would protect Catherine and their children. The future king now recognized the same hesitation Diana believed had wounded her marriage. His silence had not always created peace. Sometimes, it had simply left the people he loved standing alone. Catherine opened the page concerning Camilla. Diana did not describe the other woman as an enemy who must be punished forever. Instead, she warned that unresolved guilt between adults must never control the status, safety, or inheritance of the next generation. William read that line twice. His mother had not left him instructions for revenge. She had left him a boundary. William made his decision. The letters would remain private under his personal authority, meaning he alone would control their storage and access. He would not publish them, but he would act on their warning by protecting Catherine's position and securing the children's inheritance from private rivalry. Catherine took his hand as he dictated a brief statement. It confirmed that personal family correspondence had been received and would be treated with dignity rather than denial. Their decision denied the public Diana's private words, but the confirmation alone was enough to send crowds, broadcasters, and newspapers into a frenzy. By evening, the letters themselves remained hidden, yet the story was everywhere. The nation did not know Diana's exact words, but it knew that William had received them and that Camilla had left the confirmation meeting in tears. For some, the moment reopened old anger. For others, it revealed the burden carried by every person trapped inside the royal triangle. Then one newspaper printed a front page so stark that it transformed private grief into a national symbol. Kensington Palace confirmed that William had received authenticated personal correspondence left by his mother, and that the contents would remain private. Authenticated correspondence means letters whose origin has been formally verified through handwriting, records, and trusted witnesses. The statement was brief, but its restraint mattered. The prince was refusing to turn Diana's private pain into public ammunition. Buckingham Palace responded within the hour. The royal residence, which serves as the monarch's main administrative headquarters, released a shorter message saying Charles and Camilla respected William's decision. The statement did not mention the queen consort's walkout, her tears, or the confrontation inside the jeweler's showroom. That silence only intensified the story. Camilla became the center of a divided public reaction. Some defended her as a woman suddenly confronted by pain that had followed her for decades. Others saw her departure as proof that Diana's words had touched a truth the palace never fully resolved. The queen consort remained out of public view, while every broadcaster debated what her silence meant. William received a different response. Commentators praised the future king for protecting his mother's privacy instead of using the letters against Charles. The prince had been given the power to embarrass his father, yet he chose restraint. That decision made the discovery feel less like revenge and more like a test of the man he intended to become. Morning brought the image that changed everything. The Chronicle printed a closed cream envelope beside an empty chair beneath the headline, "Diana's Last Word and the Queen Who Could Not Stay." The front page spread across television screens, phones, and newsstands before the palace could answer it. Crowds gathered at Kensington Palace carrying white roses and handwritten messages. One young mother raised a sign that read, "A mother's voice still reaches her son." William saw the image before leaving home, but he issued no reply. Instead, the prince entered Clarence House, the London residence used by Charles and Camilla, for one final private conversation. The king was waiting. So was the queen consort. The world expected accusation, punishment, or revenge, but William arrived carrying neither the letters nor anger. Only the boundary Diana had asked him to defend. William could have used the letters to reopen every wound. He could have exposed private failures, humiliated Camilla, or forced Charles to defend choices made decades earlier. He did none of those things. Instead, he entered the room where his father and stepmother waited and delivered a decision shaped by grief but untouched by revenge. Diana's final message would remain private. Its meaning, however, would change how the future king protected his wife, his children, and the crown. William sat across from Charles and Camilla without advisors, lawyers, or private secretaries present. The prince confirmed that the original letters would be secured inside his personal family archive, a protected collection of private documents controlled by the family rather than by palace officials. That decision mattered because it placed Diana's words beyond political use, while keeping them safe for the generations she had tried to protect. William made the boundary unmistakable. The letters would not be published, sold, selectively leaked, or quoted to damage anyone's public standing. He would not turn his mother's pain into a weapon against his father. He would not use her memory to punish the queen consort. But neither would he allow the palace to bury what those pages had taught him. Charles listened without interruption. The king finally acknowledged that his hesitation had created wounds other people were forced to carry. In a private recorded account prepared after the meeting, he admitted that silence had once felt like protection because it prevented immediate confrontation. Now the monarch understood the harder truth. Silence had often protected comfort, not people. Camilla lowered her eyes before speaking. The queen consort explained that her walkout had not come from hatred of Diana. It had come from realizing that the late princess had died still fearing her sons might inherit the consequences of choices made by adults. She had spent years surviving public judgment, but the letters confronted her with something more painful than blame: a mother's unfinished fear. William answered with quiet authority. Catherine's position, his children's inheritance, and Diana's private legacy would never again be adjusted to settle guilt, rivalry, or personal discomfort. The future king would protect institutional stability, but not by sacrificing the people closest to him. William then gave the sapphire brooch its final home. He placed it in a private collection dedicated to Diana, and left instructions that it could one day pass to Charlotte as a family heirloom, not as a prize in another royal struggle. Camilla moved toward the door, but William spoke her name. She turned back. There was no embrace, and no easy forgiveness, only recognition. Diana's letters did not destroy Charles and Camilla. They forced both to acknowledge what silence had cost. More importantly, they gave William something far greater than scandal: permission to lead differently. Her final victory was not that the past defeated them. It was that her son refused to repeat it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.